quickly do a brief introduction so that the listeners can know who you are. So Jacob is a keynote and TED speaker, as well as an author. He has written four best-selling books, which are The Future Leader. It's coming up in January, this month. Then The Employee Experience Advantage, The Future of Work, and The Collaborative Organization. Jacob is the founder of the Future of Work University, and Jacob's work has been endorsed by the CEOs of several multinational companies, Unilever, Mastercard, Saab, Best Buy, Domino Pizza, among many others. Jacob, you're welcome, and thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's great. Okay, so before I start, I have my questions so that we quickly do a deep dive. And this is my first question. So over the centuries, there has been a leadership gap, and it seems to cut across all geographies, industries, institutions, etc. So Jacob, what is the radical shift people and organizations should expect when it comes to leading effectively in this decade and beyond? Oh, I can't hear you. Okay.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
So there are quite a few things that are happening. One of the things that I found in doing research for my book is that organizations around the world are generally not ready when we think about the future of leadership. And all the studies that are out there consistently point to the fact that if leaders today disappeared from Earth, we do not have enough good leaders available to take their place. Because we don't train enough leaders. Leaders that we do train, we train very late in their career. By the time they're in their 40s, in their late 30s. But most people become leaders when they're much earlier in their career, in their mid-20s, early 20s. And the research that I did, I interviewed 140 CEOs around the world, and then I teamed up with LinkedIn, and we surveyed almost 14,000 employees.
Wow.
And what I tried to do from all this is to understand what are the most important skills and mindsets that leaders need to have, and then to understand how well are organizations doing, how well are leaders in the organizations doing today when it comes to practicing those skills and mindsets. And so what I found is that around the world, and this is regardless of where you look, a lot of leaders think they are doing a good job preparing for the future. But when we ask employees who work for these leaders if they're doing a good job, employees around the world say no. And the gaps are very big. We're talking like 30-40% gaps. So leaders say, yeah, we got it under control. I get it. I'm prepared. I'm mastering these new skills and mindsets. And the people who work for these leaders say, no, you're not. You're not ready at all. And the gap is huge between these two. So, what this tells me is, by and large, if your people tell you you're not ready, it doesn't matter what you think about yourself.
Absolutely.
You're not ready.
Absolutely.
And so, the research reveals that around the world, we're not ready, not even close.
Wow. So is it possible, or are you saying the leader between now and 2020, they're going to be different than the leaders of today?
Yes. So there are going to be considerable differences between the leader of today versus the leader of 2030. And the reason why we're going to have these differences is because we're going to have new types of organizations that exist.
Okay.
So if you look at what's happening in the world as far as purpose and meaning and artificial intelligence and technology and globalization and the changing nature of talent, we have all these trends that are changing our businesses. And so if our businesses are going to change, it's safe to say that we need a new type of leader to lead those types of businesses.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's, I think, and that's what a lot of people forget. It's why are we going to have a new type of leader? It's because we're going to have new types of businesses. And if you have a new type of business, you need a new type of leader.
Of leaders.
And so those are some of the trends. Yeah, those are some of the trends that are greatly impacting the way that we're going to think about leadership in the future.
Okay, thank you. So, if I may ask, so what are the top 5 trends and challenges that are shaping the future leaders?
So there are a few, and I'm actually just going to pull up my list here so that I don't forget them.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure I give you the top ones based on the data that I collected.
Oh, great.
So let me start off with the trends. The greatest trend that the CEOs I interviewed pointed to was around artificial intelligence and technology.
Okay.
And that shouldn't be super surprising. We hear about that quite a bit. I mean, it's talked about everywhere.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons why, at least I think this is going to be a big trend, is because it's going to help us figure out who the good leaders are and who the bad leaders are.
Absolutely.
So bad leaders typically just focus on command and control, decision making, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And artificial intelligence and technology is going to be able to do a better job of that in the coming years. So if you're a bad leader and that's all you do, your job's going to get destroyed completely. Yeah, but if you're a good leader and you also focus on the the human aspects of business, the coaching, the mentoring, the leadership, the softer human types of leadership characteristics, then I think you're going to be in a very, very good place. So when I say that's what's going to separate kind of the good leaders and the bad leaders, I think that's exactly what we're going to start to see. So that's a very huge trend. A couple others are around just the pace of change, how quickly things are changing every single day, and being able to keep up with that. Globalization is another big one. Basically, the world itself is becoming like one big city. So
absolutely,
we need to understand how the work that we're doing in one team, one geography, one part of the world is impacting the business on a broader scale. We need to understand how to work with different types of employees, with different cultures, backgrounds, beliefs. And another big trend is around the changing demographics, just what talent looks like. Diversity and inclusion is something that a lot of organizations are starting to focus on as well. 5 generations in the workplace. I mean, these are all things that are going to disrupt the way that we think about traditional leadership. So those are some of the big trends. If we look at some of the big challenges, some of the challenges, well, let me give you the biggest one first. The biggest one is around keeping up with the pace of change. So things are changing so quickly. How do you keep up? That's going to be the number one challenge for leaders around the world. Another big challenge is going to be around how do you lead diverse teams, where your team is comprised of people who don't look like you, who don't believe in the things that you believe. They come from different backgrounds, right? So how do you lead a team where everybody is different than you? So you need to understand different cultures and backgrounds. I mean, you need to be able to work with those types of very diverse and mixed up teams. Another big trend is around not just the pace of change, but keeping up with the changes in technology. Okay. So as a leader, you don't need to be a technology master, but you need to understand the different technologies that are out there and how they're going to impact your business. Whether you look at blockchain or augmented virtual reality or the Internet of Things or big data, you need to have a sense of how these things might impact your business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's crucial for leaders. And I'll give you maybe 1 or 2 others. Attracting and retaining top talent. This has been one that we've seen for a long time, and it's going to continue to be relevant. No changes there. And then another one is making sure that the organization continues to stay human. Because we see so much focus and obsession with technology that we forget that we need to make sure that the organization stays human. Because a lot of relationships and a lot of business is still done by shaking somebody's hand, by looking somebody in the eye, by going out to lunch with somebody. somebody, so you need to make sure that the organization stays human.
Hmm. Okay, that's fine. Awesome, awesome. So you said something about the good leaders and the bad leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Are these differences going to be clear in the future leader? Are you saying there's going to be a huge difference between the bad leaders and the good leaders, and how?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think because of so much emphasis on technology, that a lot of what bad leaders do, so I look at what leaders do as broken up into two things. So a leader's job is basically into two components. The
Okay.
first is decision making.
Decisions.
You know, because you have the information, you have the authority, you can make the decisions based on the company. And the second thing that leaders do is they get people to move in the direction of that decision.
Okay.
So that's what a leader does, just those two things, just broadly speaking. Now, if you're a bad leader, all you do is you tell people what to do and you assume that everybody should do it.
True.
Command and control, delegate, you know, this is my decision, I told you what to do, go do it. Like, that's what bad leaders do.
Oh, I see.
Good leaders will also say things like, here's the decision and how can I motivate you? How can I empower you? How can I engage you so that you want to move in the direction of that decision?
So it's more persuasive, kind of.
It's being more of the human stuff, the coaching, the mentoring, the building the relationships, the getting people to move in that direction, getting them to want to move in that direction, not just move in that direction because you're telling them to do it. So if you're a bad leader and all you do is you focus on the decision-making stuff, that's what artificial intelligence and technology is going to do.
They'll do, really.
Yeah, it's going to make better decisions than you because it's going to have more information. It can analyze more things. And so as a leader, you're going to very much be able to rely on technology to help you figure out what the best decision is that you need to make. So if you're a bad leader, you know, your days are numbered because you don't focus on the human stuff. And the technology stuff is going to do that other piece better than you. So you don't really have much value. But if you're a good leader and you focus on both of those things, now all of a sudden I think your value is going to go up tenfold inside the company. Because never before have we needed more leaders to be able to get people to want to move in that direction. Never before have we needed these coaches, these mentors, these people who are able to engage and empower and inspire others. That's something that we've needed, or that we need more now than ever before, and that's going to continue in the future as well.
Wow. Thank you for that. So let me ask this. In your forthcoming book, The Future Leader, you just mentioned that you interviewed 140 CEOs around the world from companies like India and all that. And so what are those top skills and mindsets that leaders will need over the next decade? I mean, as mentioned by these top CEOs.
So there are a few, and in the book I give them good name. You know, I came up with different names for them, like the coach, the futurist, the explorer, the chef. But high level, without kind of using those fun names, they include a lot of things that we've heard of, but a lot of things that we don't do a good enough job of practicing. So when we talk about mindsets, some of these crucial mindsets are curiosity. Being purpose-driven and caring, right? Genuinely caring about your people. Actually, being purpose-driven and caring was the number one thing that the 140 CEOs identified as being the most crucial for future leaders. It's genuinely caring about your people. What was that?
I said purpose-driven and caring.
Yes. So focusing, and what that means is that you genuinely care about the people who work at your company. You are not going to put profits ahead of people. You're not going to sacrifice people to make your numbers look better. And that you are going to focus on, and you believe that the purpose of the business is to be not just about making money.
Okay.
Higher purpose, contributing to society, contributing to the world, contributing to communities, that the business itself is not just about making money. It's about having a deeper purpose, a deeper meaning. And so that's going to be the number one mindset that leaders need to have, is that they care about their people and that they understand that the purpose of their business is not just about making dollars and cents. Another crucial mindset, for example, is about being agile and nimble. So things change so quickly. Leaders over the past few decades have not been very good at keeping up and adapting. They pick one direction and they kind of stay down that direction. But you need to be agile and nimble. You need to be able to pivot. You need to be able to make decisions quickly. It's very, very dynamic. It's sort of like, so I play a lot of chess. I'm a huge fan of chess. And so my analogy here, it's kind of like playing blitz chess, chess with a very fast time control. And the pieces are flying and, you have to adjust quickly. You got to think very fast.
On the spot, yes.
Yeah, that to me is what being agile and nimble is all about, right? It's no longer just about the long game where you get a couple hours and your opponent gets a couple hours and you sit and think about every move and you have one plan, and it's things are changing all the time now. So you need to be very agile and nimble in how you think. So that's another crucial mindset. And there are several others in there as well. I won't go through the whole list, but things like being open-minded, being a perpetual learner are all essential. So those are some of the mindsets. If we look at some of the skills, the number one skill that CEOs identified is thinking like a futurist. And thinking like a futurist means that you're very good at looking at scenarios and possibilities instead of just picking one direction and trying to go down that one direction. So you're very good at looking at different scenarios and possibilities. Listening and communication is another crucial skill. And people watching or listening to this might say, well, that's always been important. It's true. Listening and communication has always been important. But those things have also never, they're changing more than anything else. We have new tools. We have new ways that we can listen. The ways in which we communicate is changing. So those things are going to be crucial, especially in the coming years. And maybe another skill that I'll mention, which CEOs identified as being most important, is emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. Wow.
Yeah, specifically empathy and self-awareness were things that came up quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, empathy and self-awareness.
Self-awareness. So can you just quickly tell me a little bit about that, most especially self-awareness?
Yeah. So self-awareness is understanding how you perceive yourself and how other people perceive you. So do you know your own strengths and weaknesses? What gives you energy? What makes you tired or angry or upset? And also, do other people know these things about you as well? So it's kind of the internal self-awareness and the external self-awareness, both of those.
Great. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Any other top skills as mentioned by the CEO? I mean, thinking like a futurist, listening and communication, emotional intelligence. What are the top skills?
There's several others, but maybe one of the other top ones was around being a coach. So motivating, engaging, and inspiring your people. That to me is what I think of when I think of a coach. And that's also been, that's one of the most crucial things that leaders in the future can possess.
You can do. Okay, so let me quickly ask this, like I said. So there's been issue around leadership development. And I mean, that's part of what you said in the opening conversation that we had. So what would you suggest that organizations should do differently in terms of leadership development?
So there are a lot of things. Number one is to prioritize, and when the book comes out, it'll be easier, but to prioritize the skills and the mindsets that I talk about in the book. That should be the number one priority for every company around the world. Because if 140 of the world's top CEOs identify them as being most important, it's safe to say those are going to be the most important.
Most important, absolutely.
Yeah. So prioritize those skills and mindsets in the book. Create programs around them, do training around them, whatever you got to do, those have to be prioritized. Second, I think organizations need to take a step back and, broadly speaking, to define and be able to explain what is leadership at the company. What does it mean to be a leader at your company?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because a lot of companies struggle with even trying to define and explain that, right? How do you define leadership? How do you explain to somebody who a leader is? So that would probably actually be step one.
Hmm.
Step two would be to focus on those skills and mindsets. Another thing that you can do is start your leadership training programs earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Don't start them when employees are in their mid 40s, late 30s. Start these programs when employees are in their 20s.
In 20s?
Because a lot of employees become leaders in their, a lot of employees become leaders in their 20s. They just don't go through the official training programs.
Absolutely.
So start training your employees to be leaders at a much younger age, in their 20s, early 20s, mid 20s. Don't wait for them to become so late in their career where they already have developed their own idea of leadership, and it might not align with your company. They may have picked the wrong mindsets and skills up. Yeah, I mean, you need to help and teach your employees what this means and what's crucial for your company, and don't kind of just leave it to chance, because I mean, this is the most important thing your business can do, so you need to do it.
So it has to start as early as possible.
I believe so. I mean, I'm a big believer in starting these things as early as you possibly can. There's absolutely no reason to wait. Of course, employees, when they first start off working at the company, they need a little bit of time to adjust and get acclimated. I'm not saying do it on day one, but if employees have been there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, they've been at the company for a while, you can start thinking about how can you help them become a better leader in their business. Because I can promise you they're thinking about this themselves already. And if they're thinking about it, why not help them and guide them towards that direction?
So you also said something. Are you saying that leaders and leadership, they are contextual?
Yes.
That's what I could pick from what you said.
Yeah. From the 140 CEOs I interviewed, all of them I defined leadership and being a leader differently. They all have very different definitions of what these things mean.
Oh.
And so this is why I think it's so important for your leaders at your company, and this is why it's so important for your organization to think about this. Because how you define these things is going to shape the type of leader you become, the types of leaders that you grow and promote inside of your business. And so, some of the CEOs I interviewed, they say leadership is about, the mission of the company, the executing on financial performance. Other CEOs I interviewed say it's about helping make other people better. It's about painting a better vision for the future. They don't talk at all about business metrics or performance. So you need to, the people listening, leaders around the world, need to take a step back and think about these things.
And develop leaders around what you believe in, around the way it's been defined according to your organization. Okay, that's fine. So in terms of the individual now, how can the individual become a future-ready leader?
Say it again.
I said, so we talked about the organization in terms of how they can develop leaders. So I'm asking now that how can the individual become a future-ready leader?
So I don't think the advice is that different for them. So whether your company will train you on these things or not, I don't think you can wait for your company to do that. It's still up to you to know what these skills and mindsets are and to teach these things yourself. I have the book on it. You can watch YouTube videos on this. You can read books on emotional intelligence. You can read books on how to think like a futurist. You can teach these things yourself. And I cover this in the book, but I mean, for each one of the things that I talk about, you can write a whole other book on it. So you don't have to wait for your company to teach you these things. You can spend a little bit of time, a little bit of your own resources, and teach these things yourself. But I think the biggest mistake that individuals make is they assume that these things will be taught to them instead of taking the accountability and the responsibility of teaching themselves these things. So that's the best piece of advice I can give is don't wait for other people. Don't wait for your company to teach you these things. You got to do it yourself.
We'll take it up from there.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jacob. I'm quite grateful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.